What am I going to talk about today? I should have thought about what I wanted to talk about. Yesterday I was like motivated. Can I do this? Yes. Yes, I can. Ha. Did that work? Here we go. Hi, it's Cynthia from Cheerful Nihilism or Nihilism. Both of those pronunciations are correct. Both of the pronunciations are correct because it's, technically correct, and technically is the best kind of correct. I'm talking about relationships today. It's funny because I had pretty much given up on being in a relationship. Like, I had given up on the idea of romantic love when I met Glenn. I was 37. I had 2 kids, basically 2 failed marriages. Life had to wear me down for me to become an interesting or cool human being to want to spend time with. Prior to that, I was a just trash, real garbage person. So I didn't actively move garbage in a useful way. I just existed as a piece of garbage. I mean, I'm sure I had inherent value as a human being, but even looking back, I can't really see much of it. I did a lot of drugs and had a lot of sex. I don't want to be like gender specific, but femmes in general will do this. Glom onto or adopt or take care of this inappropriate person. And I say inappropriate in that the mixture of your personalities is such that you'll both be codependent, You're talking about people that have frozen unmet needs. Needs that are very normal, fundamentally normal in human development. In Buddhism, they would call it Shenpa, Shenpa. Pema Chodron and Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche would call this, and this is like Tibetan Buddhism, right? A hook is like a rough translation of what that word is. It's a hook. And Blues Traveler actually did a song about it, about the hook that brings you back. The thing that will grab you and bring you back into this spiral, circular thinking that causes a lot of dysfunction to happen around it because you have frozen unmet need. When I say frozen unmet need, it's like you needed something emotionally at various points in your childhood and developmentally. Parents have their own issues and hang-ups that they brought from their childhood as well. And they're not going to be 100% capable of meeting your needs. You're going to grow up with baggage. Your parents are not going to be able to cover all the bases and meet every single possible need that you have. The load is heavy and the nights are motherfucking long. I say this as a person, I did all of the nighttime parenting. I was tired. I just got to a point where I accepted that I would never sleep again. But even the idea of a nuclear family is a relatively nuclear, as in, mother, father, child, children. That's a relatively recent invention from freaking, I don't know, like 60 years ago. With this loud ass cat chewing next to me. You just like to be part of the show, don't you? Life is traumatic. Things happen. Trauma is part of life. Trauma is part of life. You cannot live without experiencing trauma. Every human being grows up into adulthood with a collection of emotional baggage and traumas and just weird experiences that form their identity and who they are. I'm very open about my past and the things that have happened to me. I'm pretty much talking about that with people within the first 72 hours of meeting them. I just have to get it out of the way. I'm not going to tell you the complete story and be like in full detail, but I want to let you know what you're getting into when you're talking to me. And you're allowed to say that you don't want to be my friend or don't want to be involved in my life anymore if it's too much to handle. I mean, that's okay. That's your prerogative. And, I'm going to have my emotional response or lack thereof in direct proportion to how much or how significant that person was in my life and how I am conditionally at the time when I get the news too. That's also a significant factor. Even if you don't have a lot of shit going on, a lot of persistent chronic mental illness, you're still going to have your baggage and your stuff. I had sort of resigned myself to coexisting with the father of my children and trying to get through my life. And then I met Glenn, and he reminded me I was attractive and I was a human being, and that I had wants. My wants and needs were valuable. It didn't have to just be about my children. So I guess as much as my children kind of marked a transformative experience that made me decide that there was a different way to approach my life, where I wasn't, you know, trying to just passive aggressively die, meeting him was like the second most transformative thing for me. And like, we had a great first date. We went to Amsterdam because I am a single mom with 2 kids. Okay, when can I get away? So I like beg, borrow, and steal to get a weekend away. It was like 4 days. It was a 4-day weekend. I was gone, and it was totally accidental, but it just so happened to be the weekend of 4/20. And it was a first date that was basically like 3.5 days long. I already knew that we got along well because we talk, and to this day this is true, we like, as long as when we're not sleeping, we're talking online or texting or video chatting. So it's like a constant stream of communication, which is something that, you know, if you're in a long distance relationship, that's part of how you can facilitate and maintain it. You know, we have technology tools that enable you to have a lot of real-time connection with people. We use it for work all the time, but you know, why the fuck not use it to have a relationship? It worked for me too, because I can chat and, you know, talk to somebody on the phone all day long, whether or not I have my kids or I'm running around doing stuff with them. So I can like maintain a relationship, and there's not the expectation from him as much of going out on dates on a regular basis, because that's not going to happen. It ain't happening with me. I don't get the free time. I do not. And I work every day at between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to bed at like 8 or 9 p.m. It's my life. I was used to scraps for so long. You know, I was emotionally starving. Being in a relationship with someone that has a significant substance abuse problem is very lonely. It's a lonely place. I'm gonna say that. I was, oddly enough, with an alcoholic, and I don't drink. It was like he was just absent from my life all the time. Purposely chose to be with people that were emotionally unavailable because I was afraid of commitment myself. So it was a relationship that met my needs at the time. 10 years later, I look at myself and I saw I was starving. I was starving to death. My heart was starving because I was a different person now. I had gotten to the point where I was healed enough from my trauma as I could be, that I was ready to, and I kind of longed for emotional intimacy and being close to somebody, but I didn't know how to do it. I was completely unprepared, and I had only taught myself the tools that I could to engage. And thank goodness I was so attached to my children, because that was kind of a pathway towards attachment for me to understand healthy attachment as an adult. You know, I was completely taken by surprise. He is significantly younger than me. You know, he's 10 years younger than me. And just, you know, I was surprised and shocked. And if you are an alcoholic or you are involved with an alcoholic, you know that people who have alcoholism or substance abuse issues, just they cannot be committed to another person completely. Like, it's hard to be involved with somebody that has substance abuse problems and addiction. I was unprepared. I thought that I was just not capable of being completely in love with another person, and it was a message I had heard quite frequently, that it was just my own defectiveness as a consequence of my trauma, and I just was not capable of it. And I kind of accepted it as a handicap, longing to make an emotional connection with somebody else. It was nice to meet someone who saw me he bears witness. As a person who has survived abuse, that's a really big thing for me. To have someone to see me and accept me and just know that as much of a mess, because I mean, I'm just a hot mess express. I don't want to talk negatively about myself and say I'm a trash heap now. I'm proud of the accomplishments I've made, how far I've come, and the difference in the person I am now compared to who I was even, 10 or 12 years ago. I can recognize that when you're dealing with someone who has severe and persistent mental illness and a significantly traumatic background, it comes with a lot of other stuff that, other people don't necessarily want or would ever want to deal with. I think I was talking to him earlier today and I was like, I was just joking, like, oh my God, has there ever been a time that I have not been triggered? And he was just like, he knows when to say nothing. His mother raised him right. He was just like, it was a good thing to remember. It's good that we can laugh about it together though. I didn't think I would be able to find someone that would accept me for who I was and wasn't angry at me all the time. One of the advantages of being in a long distance relationship for me was that it was like refeeding therapy. I was starving for a long time because I was afraid of commitment myself, and I purposely chose to be with emotionally unavailable people. I probably would have completely self-destructed and fucked up our relationship on purpose and sabotaged it, either intentionally or unintentionally, because the intensity of feeling an emotional connection and being emotionally intimate with someone for the first time in my life. Because you can't just jump into that beat first. You got to get training. Having a long distance relationship was something that allowed me to build trust in a safe way for me. And it was just perfect. It was a perfect way for me to open myself up to actually being able to make a connection with someone. And if anybody I dated before is watching this, I want to apologize. Whatever happened between us, I apologize for the fact that I was not capable of making an emotional connection, and it was probably disastrous because of that as a result. And I take responsibility for those choices. It wasn't a cool thing to do, but I really can't do anything about it now. The only thing that makes it hard now is the distance. Now that I'm I'm eager to be, living in the same space and trying to figure things out and iron out the kinks on that level. So that's, something I'm impatient about, but it's also like, I have to remind myself that it's continually an opportunity to deepen the emotional intimacy and the trust and open up and, relax into a relationship when I have had so much negative experience. I'm like a wounded animal. I'm very wary. That's all I got to say about that right now. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.